Dear President of the Republic of Serbia, dear Madam President of the European Commission, Your Excellencies, distinguished members of both delegations, ladies and gentlemen, after the meeting that has just been held, you will be addressed by the President of the Republic of Serbia, Mr. Aleksandar Vučić, and President of the European Commission, Madam Ursula von der Leyen. Unfortunately, due to obligations for both delegations, we have time for one question for each speaker only. Mr. President, the floor is yours. Dear President von der Leyen, distinguished journalists, citizens of Serbia, I'm particularly pleased for the opportunity to host the President of the European Commission, Madame von der Leyen, and as I have always been saying, I'm particularly grateful to her for being one among the few officials from the entire world who on several occasions came into the territory of the Republic of Serbia and not only to its capital. Madam von der Leyen toured in other, even poor parts of Serbia, helped less developed part of Serbia, and this is something that we particularly appreciate and due to which we emphasize our gratitude and our respect for her. Membership to the European Union is a strategic commitment for Serbia and the priority of our foreign policy, and that is not going to change, of course, until the next elections, and I believe not even after the respective. In the past year, since the moment of the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, we haven't opened a single chapter or a single cluster. It seems to me that at least in recent past we did some things. There's still many things to be done, but also to talk here among ourselves in the country regarding the directions of our politics. In accordance with what I've just said, I believe that what has been done regarding the regulatory agency, voters lists, and some other things regarding key energy issues is going to see the positive evaluation from the European Commission, but I know that we have to do many things. We are facing not an easy situation now. In the field of energy, the oil industry of Serbia is under the American sanctions, and being under American sanctions, de facto, it is under the European sanctions as well, and this problem is not easy to be resolved for us. I hope that regarding all the issues of importance for the energy security and energy safety of Serbia, we will have the support and the assistance from the European Union. I know that the European Union cannot make an exemption when it comes to Serbia, even though I handed over a letter to Madam von der Leyen with a plea for Serbia to be exempted from the customs and new quotas regarding steel. Only Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein can be exempted, if I'm not mistaken. But I also ask, and I believe that the European Commission will find a way to at least mitigate a bit of status for the candidate countries and to make something easier regarding the respective issue. I believe that winter is not going to be easy and simple for us. We have provided big reserves of both oil and gas, but having in mind everything, it's going to be a difficult political winter for us. Anyway, we're going to cooperate closely regarding that issue, and I believe also successfully, with the people from the European Union. I want to say that the European Union is the biggest investor and the biggest partner of Serbia when it comes to trade and services. Serbia And all of us in the Western Balkans are small for the European Union, and we all attach much bigger importance to ourselves than we actually have. And all of us together do not have too big importance, but even in that little something, according to the latest data, 54.5% of overall export from the Western Balkans to the EU countries goes from Serbia. Out of that, our biggest export goes to the Federal Republic of Germany, then Italy, Romania, and Hungary. In those four countries, 48.5% of our export is directed. The EU is, as I've said, the biggest investor. Particularly, 5 countries of the EU are the most visible when it comes to the investment, which amount in total 60% coming from the territory of the EU countries, in some less percentage in 2024, but this year this percentage is coming back. Even the level of the investment due to everything that happened in the country is a bit lower. We did not give and make any optimistic statements. I was not saying we are going to become a member of the EU this year or that year. This is something that we talked about 5 or 6 years ago when other people were leading the European Commission, and it turned out that nobody was actually serious when they were speaking about 2025, and of course we were not ready. I cannot promise anything to the people today except that we're going to work hard. We're going to be committed to meet what is named the reform agenda. And I hope that in all that we're going to be supported by the European Union and that the Brussels will hear us regarding that issue. It is not always so simple and easy, all that. Everything is not quite easy, and it is not easy to present to the people here because you know what two key issues are for us. We don't have to open that subject today, but we will have to open it here among ourselves in the upcoming months and to speak about this openly. Anyway, I am grateful to the President for her huge support. We're going to continue developing energy infrastructure with them, and I believe that we're going to build interconnectors towards North Macedonia and in the future towards Romania to see how and in what way can we strengthen Serbia in reference to the possibility to diversify our energy sources and how to strengthen our country economically. And what we, of course, spoke about is preservation of peace and stability in the region. This was the part of the discussion that goes without saying. We discussed Belgrade-Pristina dialogue, and I believe that it will be possible to continue it in a constructive tone. And I'm not going to take this opportunity to criticize on someone else, apart from saying that it takes two for tango. Anyway, it is very important, and I'm extremely grateful to President von der Leyen for coming to Belgrade in this moment, which is not easy for our country. And I hope that we'll have more meetings before the end of the year, because we will have to analyze everything that is happening, particularly regarding energy issues. And I say to seek jointly for a solution. Thank you once again, dear President, for coming to our country, and I wish you to feel at home always here in Serbia, and to ask you that next time you come to choose some other location in Serbia, because people love to see important guests visiting other regions and other cities in our country. Thank you once again and welcome. Thank you, President, and I can ask Madam President Ursula to take the floor.
And autocracies, and you know very well where the European Union stands. We stand for freedom instead of oppression, including the right of peaceful assembly. We stand for partnership instead of submission. We stand for diplomacy instead of aggression. Now, almost 2 decades ago, Serbia made a choice to join our union. And it was not only a strategic choice, it was also a choice of the heart. It was the demand of the people of Serbia, and we look forward to Serbia to double down on its European Union path. The European Union membership offers is an opportunity. It is the promise to peace. It's a promise of prosperity and of solidarity, and especially in times of crisis. You have seen that in practice. Take the energy crisis of 2022. It was triggered by Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, and it had a devastating impact across our entire continent, but we faced it together. The European Union extended the same measures of solidarity to our Western Balkan partners as to our own member states. And this is what it means to be a reliable partner. You can continue to count on us. We are connecting Serbia to the EU's energy market. This is the true guarantee that Serbian families will be safe and warm in winter. And we have concrete projects in motion. The Trans-Balkan Power Corridor, for example, linking Serbia's grid with its neighbors and with the European Union, and the Serbia-Bulgaria gas interconnector. And we are prepared to invest further in it. We also invited Serbia to join the EU's joint gas procurement mechanism, because together we are using our collective market power to secure better energy prices. Mr. President, now is the moment for Serbia to get concrete about joining our union. My first point is that we need to see progress on the rule of law, the electoral framework, and media freedom. I know these reforms are not easy. They take patience and endurance. They must include all parts of society and the political spectrum. But they are worth the effort, because they move you closer to your goal, and they also provide cornerstones for a more stable and peaceful society. In this context, I welcome the recent progress made on the Unified Voter Register, as well as the REM Council. I notice the efforts made by all to work together, including the civil society and the opposition. This is a good first step. Of course, now implementation is key, and this is why I would like to invite you to come to Brussels in about a month's time to take stock together. My second point is that we need to see greater alignment in our foreign policy, including on sanctions against Russia. I commend you for reaching 61% of alignment with our foreign policy, but more is needed, and we want to count on Serbia as a reliable partner. We know the EU path can be a long road. This is why we wanted to bring some of the benefits of future accession already today, such as the access to the single market, for example, and more EU investments. This is basically the essence of our growth plan for the Western Balkans. Under the plan, the growth plan for Serbia, we have already made available now over 100 million euros in new investments for Serbia, and more will come. As a part of the growth plan, you have created a monitoring committee. And this monitoring committee includes representatives of the civil society organizations, whom I will meet later, And it includes the government. And I think such a committee is a great signal. It sends a strong message that creates trust, inclusiveness, and ownership. I think this is the way to go. Under the growth plan, we are also working on Serbia's integration into the single euro payment area. This will make transfers of money between Serbia and the European Union faster, safer, and much, much cheaper. It will have a real impact on business and on your citizens, many of whom live and work in the EU member states. It shows that Europe's commitment is not only in words, but also in deeds, real change on the ground. And we now look to Serbia to show the same commitment in deeds as well as in words. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. Poštovane kolege, možemo da pređemo sada na vaša pitanja. Prvo...
Your questions. First question is from Radio Free Europe, Nevena Bogdanović.
Solution for the current political situation in Serbia. During her previous visit to Belgrade, Commissioner Marta Kos stated that students' demands are the same as those the European Union asks for Serbia, all demands towards Serbia. Protesters now demand early elections, and Brussels called for de-escalation after the incidents and the arrests during the protests. Thank you. And question for President Vučić. Gospodine Vučiću, kako Beograd danas odgovara na kritike Brisela zbog odnosa sa Moskvom i da li je Beograd utvrdio da li ruske službe stoje iza borbenog kampa za strance kod Loznice, budući da se ruske službe ne pominju u zvaničnim saopštenjima, i da li je o tome bilo reči na današnjem sastanku? Hvala.
So this is clearly a very crucial moment for Serbia, and it is the time for the nation to come together. It is also the moment to strengthen the foundations of a strong, vibrant, and effective democracy. I want to reassure you that the European Union is ready to support you in any effort where that is concerned. And this is, after all, what the whole accession process is all about. It is about the EU-related reforms, and these reforms should, of course, be done by taking the whole of society along. Everybody has to be involved in this reform process because it is changing the country for the better, for a strong democracy. So it should be including the whole political spectrum, but of course also strong parts of civil society. And I just said it, but I want to re-emphasize that in this context I really welcome the recent progress on the Unified Voter Registry and the REM Council. It has been agreed by working together with civil society organizations, the government with civil society organizations. So you really created here a platform to say this affects all of us. It's media freedom, it's electoral reform, it's of utmost importance that everyone has skin in the game. And by forming this platform or working platform, you were able to move forward and to agree on these two very important factors. So that's a good first step. It might be an example for further work on EU-related reforms. And, of course, now implementation is key. It's very good to have the agreement. Now it has to come the change on the ground.
Najpre, da ne bi bilo da...
First of all, I don't want to I don't want that things to see that I am hiding something. I'm proud of democratic commitment and behavior of the Serbian state regarding the protests. When in big European countries, you could see protests, there were, let's say, 27 dead people in those protests. Fortunately and lucky enough, and thanks to the great patience of Serbia and its authorities, nobody got hurt. Speaking of freedom of gathering, this country is a champion in that. When you have 25,000 criminal, that is illegal, actually gatherings that were not reported, when we secured them and took care of the people who were illegally organized, those gatherings. So that much about that. When you speak about police reactions and the excessive use of force or whatever you call it, if it has ever happened, it happened to the least possible extent in Serbia. Police reacted only in the extreme necessity and with the minimum use of force, not the way I would like to see and where I would essentially like us to go hand in hand with European values. Regarding your questions, yes, we have established a presence. I cannot claim that of the Russian service, but I cannot say that we have any some recognition for that. But we established 3 Russian citizens in Sunčana Reka Sunny River camp, not far from Loznica, between Loznica and Mali Zvornik. We apprehended persons of Serbian nationality who were available to us. They have provided us with the data which persons were involved, and so the investigation is continued. Those persons are still in the custody, just like we apprehended 11 persons regarding incidents in Paris. The same way we apprehended 2 persons regarding incidents in Germany related to a meeting, actually a rally where when somebody threw a paint who wanted to falsely accuse someone from German authorities. Yes, all those persons were apprehended, and just like I said, in this case, in that camp, there were present 3 Russian citizens. That's what I can confirm. The investigation is ongoing, of course. Thank you. Next question, Radio Television Serbia, Tamara, please. For Madam von der Leyen, yesterday in Montenegro, you invited investors to invest in Western Balkan countries. In that context, how do you see Serbia? In which areas Serbia can expect to see new investment? You've mentioned AI, green energy, but do you have anything in concrete terms to convey here as a message in Belgrade? And for President Vučić, you've mentioned that you asked Madam von der Leyen regarding steel quotas. So are you an optimist that there's going to be some steps forward? And speaking about oil industry of Serbia, can you tell us something in more concrete terms? Are you negotiating with some European countries apart from Croatia regarding JANAF in reference to resolving this issue? Thank you.
Yes, the investors' conferences were outstanding. The interest is high. And my message basically to the investors is the time to invest in the Western Balkans is now. Because if you choose the Western Balkans, you choose Europe. And that's the principle of our growth plan. Because the growth plan opens the door to sectors of the single market as if the Western Balkan countries were already members of the European Union. We do this by investing in the Western Balkan countries, and in return there are reforms so that we have a level playing field between our single market and the Western Balkan countries. And this is a huge opportunity for companies in the European Union because the market is widening, but also, of course, for companies from the Western Balkan because the door is open now to the single market of the European Union. And indeed, a classical example is the investment in artificial intelligence. We have built in the European Union so-called AI factories. These are high-power computational centers. And we open these AI factories to our startups so that they can train and develop and then deploy their models with the data computational power of the AI factories. So it's very powerful. What we're doing now is extending these AI factories to the Western Balkans, for example, one antenna to Serbia, so that also the Western Balkan startups can train their models already on the AI factories of the European Union. That is one example. Another example is, of course, the investment in clean technologies, the decarbonization, for example, the wind farms, the hydropower plants, and more renewable energy and clean technologies that are being developed here in the Western Balkans. So lots of opportunities, and therefore, if you choose the Western Balkan as an investor, you choose Europe.
Ja sam veoma zahvalan predsjednici
I'm very grateful to the President of the European Commission for listening to our plea. We will not be able to have terms as we used to have. Of course, it's going to be a bit worse and a bit more difficult, but we hope that it's going to be somewhat better for us and Ukraine and some other countries that are not in the EU and countries that are trading steel in the territory of the European Union than for the so-called third countries that are actually countries that are not candidate countries. And we do hope for that. I want to thank President of the European Commission for listening to me regarding that. I want to thank her also for the fact that I believe we are going to be able to establish a joint working group with the EU representatives that is going to deal and address the energy situation in our country to see how to overcome all the problems. We do not have any negotiations with potential buyers because we are not the owners. I have told you 1,000 times we are not communists, and we are waiting for the owner if needed, if sanctions survive, and it seems that they will. We're waiting for them to make a deal with whoever they want. What we've seen with the Russian situation is not an easy one, definitely not an easy one for us. And what was encouraging is that they understood, and that in accordance with that, I believe they're going to act, that we cannot allow ourselves any endangering of the energy market, insufficient supply, and so on. And when President von der Leyen mentions investment into AI, we are immensely grateful to her, but we must know that we have to work energy-wise on the development of our energy infrastructure in coming 10 years. We have to work more. We have to work harder than in the past 10 years. We're not going to have enough electricity. One of the products that we export to this single market through Europe and where we make money is electricity as a third or the fourth product that we export. But we will not be able to have electricity when it comes to bigger consumption of data centers, supercomputers, artificial intelligence, e-vehicles, and so on. Only that we think when something happens that it will not be a problem in the future. We had better trains in 1885 than we had in 1935 or 1975. It is just difficult for people to comprehend that, because the world is progressing, developing. It is possible because we demand bigger consumption of gas, electricity, and we need gas for the electricity. Haven't we had 2 gas power plants? Even last year we wouldn't have enough electricity. Luckily enough, we have Novi Sad and Pančevo. Zrenjanin is a small one. That's why I'm not emphasizing Zrenjanin and Mitrovica as places. But if we didn't have Pančevo and Novi Sad, we wouldn't have the electricity. But a lot of problems are upcoming, and but we have been resolving those problems, and I'm particularly grateful to President von der Leyen for enabling us to have open discussion, and I want to thank her for counting on Serbia. I'm not going to hide. It's not easy for the President to speak here because bigger part of member states will say, oh, yes, but Vučić met Putin on that or that occasion. And what I do publicly, and I always speak honestly and in a fair way. We are on our European path, and I say that this face-to-face to the President Putin, and I never hide that. But social networks are dominating the world, and nobody's actually asking what the contents of something is. So we are going to do our best to make progress on the European path, to do our job, and it is up to the European Union to evaluate that, and I'm always going to be grateful to President von der Leyen for her efforts and for not having any problems in showing respect for our country and for visiting other parts of our beautiful Serbia, not only Belgrade. Thank you once again for coming, and I wish you successful work and a successful day today. Thank you, President. Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, thank you. We hereby end today's press conference.